The whisper in the rain. Rain fell in sheets over Erebus Station Prime, washing the neon grime from the streets, but never the despair that clung to its people. The colony had long stopped pretending to be beautiful. Corroded steel towers rose into a smog-filled sky, their signs flickering half-dead. The city was a graveyard of forgotten wars and broken treaties. Somewhere in that darkness, two small figures walked side by side, hand in hand, soaked to the bone. Lila Vance was 8, small for her age, her brown hair plastered to her cheeks. Her older brother Jonas, barely 10, kept his arm around her as they pushed through the puddles. The glowing holographic photo clutched in Jonas's free hand flickered, a woman smiling in a red diplomat's uniform, her eyes full of pride. Captain Mira Vance. Their mother. She's out there, Jonas, Lila whispered, shivering. Mom's not gone. Jonas tightened his jaw, looking up at the distant lights of the orbital docks above. We just have to find someone who'll listen. But no one had listened. For 3 days they'd gone from one official to another, colonial governors, peace envoys, even the Terran embassy. Every answer was the same, cold and bureaucratic. The Galactic Empire is too powerful. We can't risk a war for one person. One person. Their mother wasn't one person. She was everything. As night fell, they found themselves in the city's lower sectors, where the glow of neon gave way to the hum of rusting machinery. A one-eyed vendor saw the holograph and gave a slow, almost fearful nod. You're looking for the Baba Yaga, aren't you? Jonas frowned. Who's that? The man's expression darkened. You don't find him, boy. He finds you. But if you're desperate enough, try the old barracks under Dock 9. Word is the devil himself hides there. Lila's small fingers gripped Jonas's tighter. The devil. Jonas said nothing. He only looked toward the distant, broken spire that jutted above the smog like a blade. The abandoned Terran Black Ops Command Center. The doors were sealed with rust, and the interior smelled of ozone and decay. Old Terran war banners hung torn from the walls, their colors faded. The sound of dripping water echoed through the empty corridors. Maybe no one's here, Lila whispered. Then a voice came from the shadows. Low, calm, ancient. Who sent you? Jonas froze. A tall man stepped from the darkness. His long hair was streaked with gray, his face scarred and unshaven, eyes sharp as razors. He wore a black coat with a Terran military insignia, faded but unmistakable. Jonas swallowed hard. You're the Baba Yaga? The man's eyes narrowed. People still call me that. He stopped a few meters away, studying them. You're too young to be soldiers. Why are you here? Jonas lifted the holograph. The faint image of Mira flickered between them. They took her. The Galactic Empire. 3 days ago, during the diplomatic summit on Tarsus. They said she was a spy. His voice cracked. They're going to kill her. For a moment, the man said nothing. Only the soft hum of the city outside broke the silence. Then he turned away, lighting a thin silver stick and letting the smoke curl through the air. Go home, he said flatly. You can't fight the Empire. No one can. Lila stepped forward, trembling. Please, sir. You fought before. You know how. He didn't answer. She's our mom, Jonas said. And everyone's too afraid to help. They say war's not worth it. But she always said peace only means something if you're willing to protect it. The man froze mid-step. Slowly, he turned. His face was unreadable, but his eyes, those eyes, were haunted. What's your name, boy? Jonas Vance. The cigarette fell from his lips. Vance? His gaze flicked to the hologram again. Mira Vance. He remembered her. The diplomat who had stood between Terran fleets and alien armadas, who'd ended the Orion War with words instead of plasma. The one who'd believed humanity could rise above vengeance. She saved lives, he murmured. She saved everyone but herself, Jonas whispered. Something cold and terrible flickered behind the man's calm exterior. A ghost from another life. He had walked away from the blood and the screams, buried his weapons, sworn never to kill again. But in that moment, as he looked at those two shivering children holding onto the last picture of their mother, he realized peace had never been his to keep. He knelt in front of them. You know what happens if I do this? Jonas nodded. The Empire burns. The man gave a humorless smile. "You've got your mother's fire." He stood, turned toward a sealed metal door, and pressed his palm against the scanner. Rust groaned, locks disengaged, and the chamber beyond hissed open, revealing rows of black armor, pulse rifles, and an old insignia etched on the wall. Terran Black Operations, Unit 07. The man walked inside, pulled a battered metal case from a locker, and opened it. Inside lay a matte black combat suit, scarred from 100 battles, and a long, silver-edged blade that seemed to hum faintly in the air. He looked back at the children, his expression hardening into iron. "They call me the Baba Yaga," he said quietly, "but my name is Elias Kane." He slipped the combat plate onto his chest, locked the seal, and strapped the blade to his back. "Your mother believed in peace. I'll make sure her captors understand what war looks like." Lila's eyes widened. "You'll bring her home?" Kane's voice was low, calm, absolute. "I'll bring her back, and I'll make the Empire remember what humans do when you take one of ours." Outside, the rain turned to thunder, and deep in the heart of Erebus Station Prime, the Baba Yaga awoke once more. Into the wolf's den. The void of space stretched endlessly beyond the cockpit of the stolen courier ship, its hull patched with scavenged plates and old Terran markings burned away. Inside, the hum of the engines was the only sound, steady, low, and patient, like the breath of a predator waiting to strike. Elias Kane sat motionless in the pilot's chair, his black armor illuminated by the glow of tactical holoscreens. His expression was carved from stone, eyes tracking endless streams of encrypted data as his ship drifted silently toward the glowing world of Varnis IV, one of the Galactic Empire's fortress planets. Across from him, a faint shimmer pulsed within a circular core embedded in the console. A synthesized voice broke the silence. Long-range scans confirm the Obsidian Crown is in low orbit. Imperial prison vessel, Class 9. 70 decks. 6,000 personnel. Upload the schematics, Raziel, Kane said. Done. You're attempting infiltration with no support, no fleet, and no exit strategy. This operation has a 0% survival rating. Kane gave a dry smirk. Good. They won't expect me. The AI's core pulsed again, its tone sharpening. Commander, the Terran Council has officially disavowed you. If you're caught, Earth will deny involvement. I'm not here for Earth. His gaze hardened. I'm here for Mira. 12 hours earlier, Raziel had breached the Empire's classified channels, decoding transmission logs from Varnis IV. Mira Vance's name appeared in interrogation reports. Subject 7419, Terran diplomat, suspected espionage. The last entry, transfer to Obsidian Crown for final extraction. Kane knew what final extraction meant. The Empire didn't execute prisoners publicly. They erased them quietly, atom by atom, until not even memory remained. He checked his weapon rack, a compact railgun, a pair of mag pistols, EMP blades, and a few grenades with Terra markings so old they were half relic, half myth. Every weapon had been hand-built, fine-tuned for one purpose: silent extermination. Kane opened a comms file. A hologram flickered to life, showing Lila and Jonas asleep under a blanket aboard a refugee freighter bound for Earth. He'd sent them away that morning. His voice replayed in his mind. When this is over, you'll see her again. I promise. He'd made promises before and failed them. He wasn't failing this one. The Obsidian Crown appeared through the viewport, a monstrous construct of dark alloy and energy veins, shaped like a floating fortress daggered into orbit. Blue shield lines shimmered around its hull, and entire fleets patrolled nearby. Cruisers, drones, and battle frigates. Raziel's tone turned grim. Entry vector locked. Shield rotations synchronized. If you miss the timing window, the hull will vaporize. Kane's fingers danced over the controls. Wouldn't be the first time. He activated the stealth field, a quantum scrambler that bent light and heat, turning his ship into a ghost. He aimed for the Crown's exhaust shadow and cut all power. The ship fell into a free drift, sliding through the vast emptiness like a drop of ink through glass. Inside the Crown, alarms flickered once. A junior officer frowned. Commander, a sensor ghost just crossed the thermal perimeter. Another calibration glitch, her superior said. Ignore it. They never saw the drop pod detach. Kane hit the prison deck hard, rolling into darkness. The walls hummed with sterile white light and the faint vibration of distant machinery. He pulled the cloaking mantle over his armor and moved. Every step was deliberate, every breath measured. Raziel projected a holographic overlay into his vision. Red outlines of patrol routes, green dots for security nodes, yellow for potential threats. The Empire's prison architecture was efficient. Wide corridors, layered checkpoints, automated defense drones. Kane disabled the first sentry in silence, a precise flick of his EMP blade across the sensor cluster. The second fell with a suppressed shot to its neural core. Deck 14, Detention Sector. Subject 7419 located, Raziel said. ETA, 6 minutes. If you keep killing everything that moves. Kane gave a quiet chuckle. That's the plan. He moved through the corridors like a phantom, disabling cameras, slicing data panels, avoiding motion sensors by instinct more than sight. To the guards, it would look like malfunctions, random glitches, or shadows where none should be. Then came the first body discovery. Security breach on Deck 16. Unknown intruder. Kane smiled grimly. So much for quiet. He planted EMP grenades on 2 junctions and kept moving. The lights flickered, alarms wailed, and the ship's AI shouted orders in Imperial tongue. Meanwhile, in a sterile cell deep below, Mira Vance lifted her bruised head. Her left eye was swollen, her uniform torn. She'd endured interrogation for days, refusing to give the Empire data on Terran colonies. The door rattled. The lights flickered again. Screams echoed faintly through the ventilation shafts. One of the guards muttered nervously. What's happening out there? The second guard glanced at his blaster. They said it's a Terran assassin. Mira's lips curved in a faint, bloodied smile. Then you should start praying. The corridor exploded. Kane burst through the smoke, railgun raised, armor streaked with soot. 3 shots, clean, surgical, and the guard dropped before they even screamed. Mira blinked through the haze, disbelief and recognition crashing together. Elias. He stepped forward, lowered his weapon, and knelt. You're a hard woman to find. She laughed weakly. You shouldn't have come. Too late for that. He cut her restraints, catching her before she fell. The ship's alarm system screamed louder now. Raziel's voice filled his comms. Reinforcements inbound. For platoons, armored. Recommend rapid extraction. Kane hoisted Mira over his shoulder. Plot me a path. Working. But Commander, what? The Obsidian Crown's captain just ordered full lockdown. If you want to escape, you'll have to fly this ship yourself. Kane's mouth twisted into something halfway between a grin and a snarl. Then I guess we steal a prison. He turned toward the nearest lift, carrying Mira with effortless strength, his footsteps echoing through the halls. Behind him, flames licked through the corridor where the Empire had once ruled unchallenged. The Baba Yaga was inside their walls, and the Empire didn't know yet, but its nightmare had just begun. Fire and fury. The Obsidian Crown was dying. Smoke choked its corridors. Alarms screamed in a dozen languages, and the once pristine fortress now flickered with broken lights and the stench of burned metal. Through it all, Elias Kane moved like a shadow made of vengeance. His black armor was scorched, his breathing heavy, but his eyes cold, human, and unrelenting, burned with purpose. On his shoulder, Mira Vance stirred weakly. Her voice was hoarse, a whisper against the chaos. Elias, there's no way out. You should have left me. Kane grunted as he adjusted his grip, pressing her to a bulkhead for cover. You know I don't leave people behind, even when the odds are impossible. He allowed a grim smile, especially then. Above them, the ship's internal PA blared. Intruder alert. Terran operative identified. All units converge on Deck 12. Capture or terminate. Kane's comm link blinked to life. Raziel's voice came through, crisp, analytical, and slightly exasperated. Commander, Imperial tactical units are converging on your position. You've got approximately 4 minutes before the corridor becomes a kill box. Then we'll just have to make our own exit. He knelt beside a bulkhead control panel and pulled free a set of cracked data cables. Sparks flew as he plugged a jack from his wrist gauntlet into the system. His HUD flickered with cascading code. "You're hacking the Obsidian Crown?" Mira asked, disbelief creeping into her tone. "I'm not hacking," Kane said flatly. "I'm taking it." All across the ship, doors sealed, turrets turned inward, and defense drones hesitated mid-flight. The Empire soldiers, shouting orders in confusion, suddenly found their own security systems gunning for them. "Primary AI breach detected," one officer screamed. "System override from Deck 12. Before he could finish, the hallway behind him erupted as a turret opened fire. "Status," Kane demanded, sweat trailing down his temple. "I've infiltrated 60% of the ship's command net," Raziel reported. "I can reroute power to the hangar, but we'll have to fight through 30 hostiles minimum." 30? Kane's mouth twitched. "That's a light jog." He slung Mira's arm over his shoulder. "Stay close." The pair moved through the smoke-filled hallways, past slumped guards, shorted-out drones, and the faint hum of failing life support systems. Every so often, an explosion rocked the deck beneath them. "What are you doing to their ship?" Mira asked as they ducked through another corridor. "Teaching it to hate its masters." At a junction, a squad of Empire soldiers rounded the corner, blasters raised. Before they could fire, Kane hurled a pair of EMP grenades. The detonations cracked the air, sending a pulse of blue-white energy that fried the soldiers' armor systems and left them paralyzed in mid-step. Kane didn't pause. He shot each one in the head, clean and precise. Mira flinched, still efficient as ever. "Don't compliment me yet," he muttered. "We're not out." They reached the main hangar, a cavernous space lined with assault shuttles and maintenance scaffolds. Alarms pulsed red, and through the transparent shield windows, the blue curve of Varnis IV glowed below like a silent witness. But the hangar wasn't empty. An entire platoon of armored troopers waited in formation, flanked by drones and heavy plasma turrets. At their center stood Viceroy Tlor, the alien responsible for Mira's abduction, tall, scaled, and draped in crimson command armor. "Terran scum," Tlor hissed, voice amplified. "You dare invade the Empire's sanctum? You dare touch my ship?" Kane's reply was almost gentle. "Your ship's mine now." The Viceroy's snarl was drowned out by the roar of plasma fire. Kane dove behind a cargo crate, dragging Mira down beside him. The air turned molten with energy bolts. Metal screamed as it melted. Kane rolled, grabbed his railgun, and returned fire, each shot punching through armor like paper. Raziel fed him targeting data, his voice steady. "Left flank, 2 units approaching. Drones overhead, 30 meters. Recommend anti-drone charge." Kane pulled a cylindrical device from his belt, pressed a thumb to the activator, and lobbed it into the air. The explosion bloomed in a burst of magnetic pulse. Every drone above them fell like stones. "You can't win," Tlor bellowed. "You're one man." Kane rose from cover, eyes burning. That's all humanity ever needed. He sprinted forward, weaving between gunfire, railguns spitting tungsten death. Soldiers fell. Drones shattered. Tlor roared in defiance, swinging his plasma halberd as Kane closed the distance. Their clash echoed through the hangar, blade against blade, sparks raining across the deck. "You think you're vengeance?" Tlor snarled. "You're nothing." Kane twisted, disarming him with brutal efficiency, and pressed the muzzle of his railgun to the alien's chest. "No," he said. "I'm the consequence." The shot tore through Tlor's armor, flinging him backward. He hit the deck, lifeless. Raziel interrupted the silence. "Commander, enemy reinforcements inbound. 30 seconds to hangar lockdown. Then let's finish this." Kane dashed to the nearest shuttle, threw Mira inside, and slammed the cockpit door shut. "Raziel, overheat the reactor. Give the Empire a farewell gift." "Confirmed." Initiating cascade, overload. The AI's tone grew quiet. "Elias, you won't make it if you stay." Kane looked through the viewport at Mira, her face pale, eyes shining with both fury and love. "You'll make it," he said softly. "You always do." He hit the release lever. The shuttle's engines ignited, blasting it through the hangar shields into the dark void beyond. Mira screamed his name, and then the ship vanished into the stars. Kane stood alone in the collapsing hangar, smoke curling around him. His armor was cracked, his body bleeding, but his stance was unbroken. "Reactor critical," Raziel warned. 30 seconds. "Good," Kane murmured, lowering his railgun. "Let them remember this." Outside, Imperial cruisers scrambled in panic as the Obsidian Crown's core went white-hot. The explosion that followed was seen from the planet's surface, a sphere of light blooming against the black, silent void. And as the Obsidian Crown disintegrated, a final encrypted Terran transmission pulsed across every channel. "You took one of ours. We're taking everything." Then there was only silence, and the first spark of fear in the heart of an empire that had thought humanity broken. The Legend Reborn. The stars burned quietly over Varnis IV, their light falling upon the drifting wreckage of the Obsidian Crown. Fragments of the once mighty Imperial prison ship floated like bones through the void, blackened metal, shattered armor, the silent remains of arrogance. Among the debris, a single shuttle streaked through space, its engines flickering. Inside, Mira Vance sat in the co-pilot's seat, her hands trembling as she watched the explosion fade behind her. She whispered into the comms, voice cracking, "Elias, please respond." Only static answered. Her children's faces flickered in her mind. Lila's quiet bravery, Jonas's stubborn hope. She promised she'd come home. She'd meant it. But the man who'd made that possible, the man who'd defied an empire, was gone. Or so she thought. 3 days later, across the galaxy, the Imperial news networks broadcast the official statement. Terrorist saboteur responsible for the destruction of the Obsidian Crown confirmed deceased. The Empire will respond with decisive force against any Terran aggression. But behind closed doors, panic festered. The Empire's data archives were compromised. Supply lines were collapsing. And throughout its vast dominion, high-ranking officials began to disappear, one by one. Every crime scene bore the same mark. A small Terran coin, its surface engraved with a single symbol, a human skull within a circle of stars. The Empire called it terrorism. The galaxy called it a warning. Humanity called it justice. On Earth, Mira stood before the Terran Council of Nations, her uniform freshly repaired, her expression composed, but her voice carried the weight of everything she'd endured. The Galactic Empire abducted a Terran diplomat, tortured her, and executed 6 of her security staff, she said. They underestimated our resolve. They thought humanity would beg. She paused, meeting the eyes of the counselors, men and women who had cowered behind treaties and denials. Instead, one man reminded them what happens when you take one of ours. Counselor Brecht leaned forward, frowning. Commander Kane was a rogue element. His actions risked interstellar war. Mira's reply was soft, but every word landed like a hammer. And yet, for the first time in a century, the Empire is afraid. Silence. Even the recording drones seemed to hesitate. She turned away, leaving the chamber without another word. Outside, under the pale Terran sun, reporters clamored for comment. She gave them only one sentence before walking into the light. The Baba Yaga isn't a story anymore. He's a message. Far from Earth, in the dark border sectors where empires seldom looked, a derelict Imperial outpost burned in the night. Its corridors were lined with bodies, slavers, warlords, and enforcers who had once traded human lives for credits. Through the smoke walked a man in a dark cloak, his armor dulled, his steps steady. Elias Kane. Half of his body was patched with cybernetics now, his left arm glowing faintly with internal circuitry. Beneath the hood, the same steel-gray eyes scanned the ruins. "You should be dead," Raziel's voice murmured through his comm implant. "Probably am," Kane muttered. "But death forgot to collect. Your body survived re-entry because of the armor's emergency barrier. You spent 40 hours unconscious. You shouldn't be walking. I've had worse hangovers." He knelt by a fallen alien officer, removed a small device from its wrist, and scanned it. Imperial codes. Names. Routes. Slave manifests. Same network. Confirmed. Empire-backed syndicate. They've been running human trafficking through frontier worlds. Kane's jaw tightened. Then we burn it all. He stood, planting a shaped charge on the central reactor core. As the timer began to blink, he walked away without looking back. Outside, the night sky bloomed with fire. Across the outer colonies, whispers began to spread. Of a phantom that hunted the Empire's servants, a human ghost who walked through gunfire and vanished into the dark. The Empire's intelligence division circulated reports. Subject 001, codename Alibaba Yaga. Human male. Former Terran Black Ops. Status, unconfirmed. Termination priority, highest. But no one ever found him. On some nights, Imperial officers swore they heard his voice on unsecured comms. A single phrase, calm and cold, transmitted seconds before their ships vanished from sensors. You should have left her alone. Months passed. The galaxy adjusted. Treaties shifted. And one evening, in a quiet Terran home surrounded by green fields, Lila and Jonas looked up as the front door opened. Their mother stood there, smiling through tears. I told you I'd come home. They ran to her, holding on as if afraid she'd disappear. Later that night, when the children had fallen asleep, Mira stepped outside onto the balcony. The stars glittered above like 1,000 silent witnesses. From the shadows near the tree line, a figure watched her. For a moment, neither spoke. You shouldn't be here, she whispered. Kane stepped forward, face half lit by moonlight. Neither should you. Empire's still out there. You died. He smiled faintly. I got better. A long silence passed between them, the kind only survivors understand. What now? She asked quietly. Kane looked to the stars. Now, they'll rebuild. They always do. But they'll remember. Remember what? That humans don't start wars. He adjusted the strap on his shoulder, where his ghost blade hung once more. But we finish them. He turned to leave, the shadows swallowing him whole. Elias, Mira called softly. He stopped. Thank you. He didn't answer, just raised a hand in farewell. Moments later, his form shimmered and vanished, cloaking field re-engaged. Only the wind and the quiet hum of night remained. Somewhere in deep space, a message pulsed through the encrypted Terran networks. No name, no coordinates, just 2 words, still hunting. And across the galaxy, from the palaces of the Empire to the slums of outlaw moons, those who had once mocked humanity shivered, because legends never die. They evolve. They remember. And somewhere in the darkness, the Baba Yaga still walked.